To be honest, that's my match reaction after that. Just frustration at the end of it. The second half, I wouldn't say it went exactly as I expected, but I expected it to be difficult if we gave Forest a winning position. It's exactly what happened. I'll be honest, though, the first half, that was tough as well. But I just can't. That stinks. That absolutely reeks. Manchester United, as I said, it was a tough first half, but a Casemiro header from a set piece gave United a 1-0 lead away at Forest. That's what we needed to do. Go in at half-time in control of the game. All right, that's a positive. Good. All right, lads, come out the second half, concentrate, focus. You're in control. Let's go. Nah, never mind. How about you just concede not once? By the way, great goal, the first one. I've got to give it to him. The second one, complete lapse of concentration. Within 2.5 minutes, you've gone from 1-0 up to 2-1 down. Away against Forest, away against a Sean Dyche Forest, and then you know exactly what is going to happen from that point. And it happened. They sat in their shape. They did the hard work. They did what they needed to do. Right, lads, you got 45 minutes to try and see out a 2-1 lead against United. Now, thankfully, Ahmad came up with an absolute worldie to give United an equaliser. Could we have got the third? Maybe. Forest, they could have got the third as well. But if I'm Ruben Amorim, and I'm going into that dressing room at full time, I'm going to be like, at the very least, we showed some character to come from 2-1 down, and that's probably a game which a United team last season loses. Let's be completely honest. So in that sense, I'll take that. 10 from our last 12 points in the league, I'll take that. But if I'm Amorim as well, inside I'm thinking, mate, you're absolute whoppers, lads. Seriously. Like, that was going to be a grimy, grafty game. It was going to be tough. It wasn't going to be completely pretty. Let's be completely honest. Like, Mbeumo was hardly in the game. Cunha really got into like too many free spaces. Šeško, I don't know why we weren't throwing any balls into the box, but we didn't. But Amorim's just going to be furious at the fact that these lads went in there and they, as I said, that first half was far from, like, nowhere near the levels that we saw against Brighton. All right, but it was never going to be that same sort of game. But just to concede 2 goals in 2 it's like, come on, that's unforgivable. That's amateur. That's complete, like, whatever you want to call it. Is it a loss of concentration? A lapse of concentration? A complete lack of concentration? The fact that Sean Dyche came out with an inspiring halftime team talk. Clearly, the Forest team came out G'd up in that second half. But you just can't excuse that. You really can't excuse that. As I said, if I'm going to take a positive, I'm going to take it from the fact that United came back into that game. And I'm telling you, United last season wouldn't have come back into that game. It would have been 3-1 Forest by the end of it. And it's just, I think I'm frustrated because, hey, look, if United won that today, United would have gone second. The momentum, do I think that kills the momentum? Nah. It's Forest away. It never looked like a good game for United, really, at any point during this season. Let's be completely honest. Because of how we know United are in these sort of scrappy, they're almost like championship-style games. Anyway, that goal from Ahmad was absolutely unbelievable. Casemiro came up. By the way, anybody follow my bet? I definitely backed Casemiro to score a header. Put Cheeky Fire in it. I'll take that. But you can't really look at the positives of that. What did you think about the weaknesses of United in that game? I don't need to tell you the weaknesses of Diogo Dalot, do I? Right? I mean, how many times have we got to speak about this? Ahmad, the weakness from Ahmad in that game was, this is the risk, I suppose, you take by playing Ahmad at right wing back. He was just getting held off the ball by Morgan's Gibbs-White for the first goal that went in. Oh, can I say, by the way, Elliot Anderson was man of the match. Man, he played well. If you compare that to how Baleba played against United last week, geez, night and day. Absolutely night and day. But that's the risk you take by playing Ahmad at right wing back. All right, he's probably going to get out-muscled in certain situations and certain moments. That's what happened. But the reason you keep Ahmad on is the goal that he then went on to score. All right, I'd much rather be playing wingers as wing-backs rather than full-backs, a.k.a. Diogo Dalot. Dorgu came on. I think he made us a little bit more positive going forward. Not particularly too much. But Mbeumo was quiet, I suppose. Was it because Forest were doubling up on him? It felt it a little bit. I don't know whether there was I don't know, just Mbeumo wasn't in the game as much as I thought he was going to be. And I'm really surprised that we weren't putting more crosses in the box. Now, maybe that's not too much of a surprise. You can see Milenkovic there and Murillo. And maybe that's exactly why we weren't floating balls into the box, because if you're going to choose two players, probably two Forest players who you're going to back to kind of deliver every game, you're probably going to be looking towards Milenkovic and Murillo. Their last two player of the seasons, and it's kind of like the bread and butter of their football. But I can't do, that's going to repeat on me all week, man. Yeah, it's kind of just like, it's inexcusable, isn't it? Like, we can talk about, what, am I going to pull out any individual, like, horror performances from that game? Nah, not particularly. Do I think it was a hard game? Well, it was always going to be a hard game. But, like, you went in 1-0 up at half-time. And within 5 minutes at the start of the second half, you're 2-1 down. That's on you, lads. That's got nothing to do with tactics. It's got nothing to do with approaches. It's just players coming out ready and prepped for the second half. Forest were. They were G'd up at half-time, and instead, United actually just switched off a little bit. Forest took advantage and flipped the game. As I said, at the very least, Ahmad came up with that wonder goal to equalise for United. But it's I suppose that's just an old scar reopened. United's, let's be honest, a lot of the times, inability to concentrate for a full 90 minutes. I wouldn't say that was an individual mistake. It was just the team levels, they just weren't at Forest level when they came out in the second half. You idiots, man. You idiots. As I said, at the very least, United didn't lose that game there today. Would I say it was 2 points dropped? I think from how the game played out, I think a draw is probably a pretty fair result. But it shouldn't have been like that. That's the point I'm making. We were the architects of our own problems because we came out and we switched off for the first 5 minutes of the second half. Forest took full advantage. They scored two very quickly. And then the whole second half was exactly how I feared this game was going to play out like. Forest not needing to do much apart from defend their own box, hitting on the breakthrough Elliot Anderson with passes to Ndoye and Morgan Gibbs-White. Hudson-Odoi was also a problem for us. And then, obviously, we got the late equaliser, but we didn't have enough real quality with the players that we had on the pitch there because Forest was squeezing the space so much. We weren't throwing in crosses, which surprised me. I think a draw is a fair result for how that game played, but United shouldn't have allowed it to reach that situation. And I think that's probably what Ruben Amorim is going to say in his post-match press conference. Not that exactly, and that's kind of the way he's going to be. He's not going to be angry at his players for that because you didn't need to do that, lads. You were in a really good position there. First half was tough. We came out on the right side of it because Casemiro scored. But instead of turning that into something you can then control in the second half, invite Forest forward and hit on the counter, you can see 2 goals within 5 minutes. Then it's all Forest game. A draw was a fair result, but a frustrating one.